everyone, thanks so much for joining me. In this video, we're going to cover some exercises that emphasize the glutes and hamstrings. We're going to cover some of just the fundamental things that you want to think about regardless of the position. So standing positions, kneeling positions. I'm not going to spend too much time on any specific one. I just want to go over the things that I go through to make sure that my joints are feeling safe and good, and that I'm getting to the right muscles without anything else being compromised, which can be very tricky in these types of exercises. So we'll get started. So typically in exercises that emphasize the glutes, hamstrings, we're often on a single leg. So one leg is down, one leg is up, which right from the get-go can really create all sorts of challenges. The feet could be parallel, the heels could be together, toes apart. All different kinds of things could be happening as far as what the legs are supposed to be doing in the specific exercise, how deeply the leg is bent or not. But what's so significant, right, is that we're keeping the channels of the joints open and appropriately supported without compromising any other place. Okay, so it just kind of depends here. Hopefully all of this will be helpful. I'm holding the block because even though one leg is up, one leg is down, I have this in my mind as something that's still motivating the center line in each leg. And how would they be working if they were side by side? I'm trying to keep that consistent, even though one leg will be up, one leg will be down. Okay, so from just a starting position like this, okay, so where the feet would stay in this kind of a parallel, well, they would be set up this way. Okay, I want to, even if I go with a single leg, right, I want to keep them working as though they're still side by side. So I wouldn't want to drop into one hip, and this would be extreme. Most people never go into this extreme, but still, you wouldn't even want to be subtly off, okay, because you're trying to keep the hip channels open, the channels to the spine. Also, we tend to do some funny things here with the feet. And if the feet aren't working, especially that lifted foot, if it's not working evenly across the width and length of the foot, it can irritate the knee. Okay, so people will think they have knee issues, when really if they tweak the positioning with their feet, ankle, then the knee clears up and then the work can keep moving up to the thigh and to the glutes, to the hamstring. Okay, so we're just trying to find that right alignment. Whenever we have a tilt, okay, in toward the wall, this tends to happen. So if we're lifting a leg and we're really leaning into the standing leg, then that leg, for many people, it could go numb because we're cutting off the channels. So if you're hinging, regardless of your degree, whether it's barely, you're staying more like this, or you're going into more depth, you want to make sure that you're not leaning into that leg. So I always start out rooting across the feet evenly. Standing leg always staying slightly bent. Sometimes we'll increase and decrease the bend in it, but I want to make sure that there's not undue weight on my standing leg, so that even if they were side by side, I want consistent work even as one leg lifts back and up. Okay? Then the more we get into this kind of positioning, I want to make sure I'm not going to cut off the pathway at my low back. I don't want to create this in the position. Okay, so I want to create this, right? So length. Okay, feet turned out, parallel, but I want to create length. So even though I go into this, okay, I want to zip up that sense of containment around my abs, around the low back, spine. Hips might be level or unlevel. Either way, I need this hip, the standing leg hip, to stay open. Okay, so all sorts of things can happen, and we don't want to surrender into the position. So as you get tired, it's really hard to stay focused. Even distribution of weight across the feet. Happy feet, ankles, knees, hips, spine. No tension, okay, no undue tension, let's say, right? No added tension around the neck and shoulders. So I'm always trying, right, to reaffirm, okay, and the final thing that I do often, so I'll just sort of circle through these things, cycle through these things over and over and over again. I extend, lengthen, and squeeze that energy up and in toward the midline, okay? So, rooting across the feet, drawing that energy up seamlessly, pulling the head of the arm bones back, base of the skull back, engaging the sides, and then finding my right position and reaffirming, okay? And little movements. There's all sorts of things that occur, right? But I always want to feel that I'm clear, okay? Maybe I'm here, okay? But I'm reaffirming. Excellent posture regardless of the exercise. One last thing with the upright positions, if it tends to be, none of those things really bug you, but your hamstrings tend to take over, then know that that means the glute is not engaging. So you want to try to find a connection from your heels to your glutes so that even if, let's say the ratio is like 80% is in your hamstrings, well, at least 20% is in your glutes. As long as it's not completely being taken over, you're keeping that pathway open and clear. As soon as the hamstring just clenches and cramps, you've lost the exercise. You need to back out of it, reaffirm, and re-enter. So next, we'll just cover those, the little details in kneeling seat work. So whenever we're doing any sort of thing on the knees, we need to make sure, first of all, that the body can handle it. And if you're okay being on your hands and knees, then just put the appropriate amount of cushion underneath your knees so that they're not going to be distracted by it. Also, even though I'm not going to be able to keep the block between my thighs, I still want to think about that kind of energy, because when we go on to, as we stand on our feet or hands and knees, we tend to let our energy just go out, out to the sides and kind of dump into the joints. So I still want to feel like I'm drawing energy up and in toward the midline. I still want to think about that sense of the alignment in the spine, ear, shoulder, hip, heel, even though I've completely changed the position, okay? So I just breathe in and then exhale and kind of squeeze that energy up and in toward the midline to really reaffirm, okay, the length. You could have your hands flat or you could be on your knuckles, okay? Your wrists might be slightly forward, okay, or stacked completely below the shoulder. So you just, again, find that position that you can maintain it with as little to zero, right? We want zero disturbance in the joints. Okay, so when I take a leg up or take the leg, I want to make sure that I'm not losing all this or that I'm not unlevel here, okay, if the intention is to keep the hips level. So I want to reaffirm all that. And then I want to make sure I'm getting into the glute, okay? If the intention here, right, the emphasis is glute, even if hamstrings are a part of it, we don't want to lose that sense of the glutes, okay, of the seat muscles, right? Again, just like with the upright standing positions, if you feel this in the knees, really ask, try to check in with what's happening with the foot, because if the foot is off in alignment and we're really intense in our intention with the exercise, the flow can be stopped at the knee, okay? So I want to feel like I've got all that energy, okay, drawing up and in. I'm squeezing that imaginary block, maybe hugging a ball between my calf and thigh muscle. And then the movement is really small and contained. Okay, so you don't have to have a huge movement at all for these exercises to be effective. I forgot to mention that with the upright positions, but still all the same. It's a small, contained movement, okay? Maybe the leg is straight. Okay, so we've got all sorts of variations. What is the most important is that you feel the point of the exercise. Okay, so you're in this and you're not just distracted by your wrists or the weight on your knees or some sort of pinching somewhere along the spine, but you're feeling all that integrated power, okay, and then that emphasis, okay, in the muscle groups that you're working, okay, without letting any one particular thing take over. So I hope that these cues are helpful, that you kind of use those to reaffirm, regardless of the specific position, okay, that you're working in with the seat. Always go back from the feet, travel all the way up, and draw in that power appropriately. So I hope that this was helpful, that you have a great day. Namaste.